So good afternoon, and unusual place to see me. But with everything that is going on in the world at the moment, but I did feel like it might have been slightly inappropriate for me to be out on the beach all the time. So today I'm going to do a vlog on how I created this image right here, up, big screen. Yeah, how I created this image, putting that seagull where it is, how I put that seagull from a different shot into this shot, and just a little bit about the process behind how I create my images. Might be interesting, might not be, but yeah, we're going to battle through it because being outside all the time, bit of a risk. On a side note though, I have got a few vlogs in the bag already, so there will be bits of this inside doing this kind of editing kind of stuff, and there will be bits of this outside capturing images like this. Yeah, so let's see what happens. But I'll show you the two images that I started off with. So this is one of the images. So this is where I originally got the seagull from. This seagull here, just absolutely perfect. Let's zoom in a little bit. It just found itself right where I needed it to be, pretty much. It came down, wanted to share the same post, but this other seagull wasn't too keen on letting him share, which was a winner for me because he kind of hovered there, and I didn't have the fastest shutter speed at the time, so this worked out really, really well. Later on during my morning, started doing something else where what I tried to do was catch a wave where it was flat down the centre down here, because I really quite liked the way the light led through them breaking waves leading to that post with the sun being directly above. I think that was an absolute winner of a choice, really. So to create that final image, what I decided to do was I wanted that immediate foreground leading through them waves, but I also liked that seagull from the other shot, so somehow I wanted to put them together. But to help images marry together, the best thing to do is, in fact, let's go back down to how these images originally were. So I'm going to work on my immediate foreground to start off with, because, you know, that at the end of the day is one of the most important parts. So here it was. So I had this really annoying post here, and it seems really long. So what I decided to do was give it a little bit of a crop down, isolate what is important to me. I didn't want to put it straight on that line there. I thought that might not look too pretty. So I left a little bit of a gap leading through onto that wave, and then guiding your eye through into that port can with the seagull on top. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring that sky down a little bit. Turn it almost into about a 4:5 crop, that kind of thing, so it's not too elongated. And I'm happy with that. So this is kind of where I ended up. I'm going to raise that exposure, that highlights a little bit, because I quite like that brightness of that sun. It is a little bit blown out, so if I look up here, it shows me all the areas that are blown out, so just by highlighting that top bit. And it was bright, it was early. Having blown out information in a shot like this isn't such a bad thing. When you try and recover all of that blown out light in that sun, it just starts to look a bit weird. So having a little bit blown out, sometimes it's okay. And then the shadows, I'm going to lift them shadows because I want more detail in them waves just down here. Going down, I'm not going to adjust. Maybe drop them whites a little bit, lift them darks a little bit, and then I'm going to add some dehaze. And the dehaze adds that contrast that I've just taken out, but in a way that I really quite like. The vibrance and saturation, it's got so much colour in it already, I think it would be a bit of a shame to mess with that. So I'm not going to adjust that. And the sliders here, again, I'm not going to adjust that. Colours, I like the colours. Split toning, doesn't need any, it's got plenty of vibrance and saturation and colour and stuff. I'm going to take the sharpness out because I like to sharpen in a different manner. And then I'm just going to remove the chromatic aberration, and that is my first shot done. Now for the second shot, all I'm taking from this is the bird. That's all I'm taking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way to the top, and I'm going to lift my exposure, because I want that bird to look like the other bird. I'm going to lift my shadows. So by doing this, what I'm trying to do is to make the images match. That's going to be quite important. And then I'm going to add a little bit of texture to that. And I think that is going to look beautiful. I'm going to zoom in 1:1. It's a little bit soft, but it is in motion. Okay. And then down to the bottom and remove chromatic aberration. Now to get both of these pictures into Photoshop, select them both just like so. Right click and then move them over. Edit it in. Open as layers in Photoshop. So while that's going on like that, the system I use to edit is something called TK Actions, and throughout the weeks of me doing these vlogs where I'm inside and stuff, you're going to see quite a lot of work done on TK Actions, because in my eyes it is super powerful and a great tool, and I'm a big fan of TK Actions. If you've never checked it out before, definitely check some videos out, and if you just want to see what I do with it, you'll see in a second. But mainly, it's amazing. It just makes Photoshop so much easier. Photoshop is a complicated beast, and if you don't spend all of your time on Photoshop, you're going to struggle a little bit. Okay, so because the only thing I want to add from that other picture is the bird, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off that background picture. Now to select the bird, TK Action has got me here. It's going to make it super easy. All I do is I press on Composite, and basically what I'm making now is a luminosity mask. So I can control what's getting selected by how light and bright and vibrant that is. Okay. So I've got the dark slider here, and I've got the lights over here, and what I'm wanting to select is dark, so I'm going to go down really low. That's too low, and I think that is pretty good. That seagull is nice and vibrant, and then I can come down to modify, so I can adjust how it's selecting that scene. So then I'm going to lower this, which is going to make the white whiter, and then bring this up, which makes the darks darker. And I reckon that is about perfect. And I can come down to this tool here, which gives me a solid black paintbrush, so I can just literally go over everything that I don't want selected. Be careful around the bird. Everything I don't want selected, and just paint it black. Just like so. Just check the sky, make sure that's completely black. And that is looking very dark. Now as to zoom in, make my paintbrush a little bit smaller, and let's get rid of that bird and that post. Now as you can see by looking at that bird, it doesn't look completely white, and anything that's grey is information that could get lost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to almost dodge and burn it on this layer. So by selecting this tool just here, that means what I can do is I can control the whites and make them whiter. Look how they're starting to get even brighter. So that means my selection is getting sharper on that bird. So what's white is going to be really sharp, and it's going to come through on that selection. Look how easy this is. And then all I do is I go down to here. No, I click on this, which selects it. Click on this, which then cuts it out. And there's my bird. That was really easy, wasn't it? And then all I need to do is to click on that layer and then decide where it needs to be. I don't like it off over there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the layer and I'm going to decide where I want the bird. And the last time I edited this, I decided didn't want to be too close, because on that original shot just here, you can see the bird is really close to the post. I wanted to get rid of a little bit more of that negative space around the port can. So what I decided to do was to move the bird a little bit of a bigger gap between, just to sort of give it that emphasis of space being filled and not so lonely and isolated on its own. But I think that, on its own, looks quite nice. It does, doesn't it? So then what I do is I have a little look around to make sure it's all good. Make sure the edges aren't too sharp. There we are. I'm pretty happy with that. So next, the crop tool. Let's get rid of these sides. Beautiful. Doesn't that look stunning? Just already, just having that bird in that scene with that line of light going through into that post, it just creates a really nice feeling. And I'm quite a fan of this. I might have said that before. The next what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten them layers. I'm going to pull this down, I'm going to duplicate it. So now this is my completed image. Next, in TK Actions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of selecting, a little bit of work on this. So I'm going to go into dark TP, which then what that does is it gives a little bit more texture in them shadows, and it gives me lots of different choices on the selection, and I only really want to affect what's happening in these waves down here. So I'm going to go down to the lower end of the TK Actions. You can see it's darkened it up on that one, and then this side it's lined it up, so it's adding that contrast. Look at the difference. It's subtle, but it's really, really nice. And then to get rid of that, I just press that and close that selection down. Boom. Got that done. Looks lovely. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lighten up them waves a little bit. I'm going to give a little bit more brightness to them, make them a bit more part of the scene. So again, I come up to composites, I go onto the dark selection, so this is what's painted white at the moment. I press select, and then I press dodge lighten. And the only thing I'm affecting when doing this is them dark areas. I can come over here, and it's not going to do anything. Come over here, not going to do anything, because this is the only bit that's selected. Okay, the opacity is a bit strong. Look at how that looks so much stronger. Just having that little bit more lightness on the foam, on the frothy bit of the wave. So before and after. And it's subtle. It's really, really subtle. Not much has changed, but I feel like it really adds to that image. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I think the colours look beautiful. I don't think they need adjusting at all. And because it was so easy that morning, I'm just going to do one more thing. I'm just going to add a little bit of a vignette. So a vignette's going to draw your eye through into that subject, darken it off a little bit. I think it's a little bit strong on the top section and on the bottom section actually, so I'm going to lower the opacity of that. Maybe on a 30. And there we are. The image is complete, and I think it's quite a nice image. But if you've never heard of TK Actions, it is a brilliant tool. It is a brilliant tool. There is one thing I always do as I finish an image though, and that is I flatten my images. Open this up twice. On the first one, I do a noise reduction on a low strength, but lots of preserve in detail. And this is one of my favourite tools to just give it that little bit more sharpness, just to get rid of that little bit of that softness. So that's done. And then to sharpen it, I just come down here, other, high pass. I always keep this nice and low on a 1.5 pixel. and then just come up here into overlay, and there we are, one sharpened image. And then finally, what I like to do is to come up into that sky and just give it a little check. Make sure there's no dust marks. And that is looking like I did a good job at clearing my lens. Select layers and flatten. And there we are. That is the finished product of how I created this image. Yeah, so make sure you leave in the comments below what you thought of this video, whether I waffled too much, whether, you know, it was actually useful. Maybe you've checked out a new program that you want to try out, because it is so good, so good, so good. But yeah, that's going to be all from me this week. If you've enjoyed it, hit a thumbs up. If you've got any ideas on what kind of editing processes that you might be interested in how I do. Now, I'm not saying that I do them the best way, but I may do them a slight different way to somebody else online, and may be able to give you my take on how I do them. But other than that, have a lovely week. Don't work too hard, and yeah, stay safe, people. Stay safe. Stay inside, stay safe. And I'll see you all next week. Peace.